So today I just wanted to take a look at the 2010 film Cyrus. This was an independent film, modest budget. You can definitely tell by the video quality. It also appears that it does not have much in the way of color correction, or certain scenes are just not very well lit. You do have some decent actors. You have Danielle Harris playing a reporter. You also have Lance Henriksen basically acting as the narrator for this film. So the film is basically just told through Lance Henriksen, and Danielle Harris is playing a reporter who is basically just trying to get some scoop on a serial killer who has basically just been terrorizing an area for decades. So Lance Henriksen's character, who claims to be a friend of Cyrus, the serial killer, basically grants her an interview, basically gives her the background information, and for the most part, I guess one would assume that it would be an interesting film. It kind of, to some degree, plays out like Joe Spinell's Maniac. It gives you the background on what created him, what made him who he is, and very much like Maniac, Cyrus's mother was basically a prostitute, and he did witness some of those acts growing up, and it was very well known he was an unwanted child. So you have that issue, and then of course as he grows older, he winds up in a marriage with a woman who does not appreciate him at all. She eventually just cheats on him and supposedly leaves him. She, nobody ever really heard from her again. But, sometime shortly after that, he did start up a burger business, something called Roadkill Burgers, which people traveled for miles just to eat. So, that's really not too hard to figure out there. So we do make our way through this film. You also have just kind of like one little scene where he abducts a young woman. She happens to remind him of his wife, and for some reason in his head he plays out this fantasy that she is the wife. Of course she isn't, and she tries to run away. That obviously does not work out well, does it ever? But one would assume to some degree, oh well, maybe this would be a fun film, it would be interesting, at the very least it would be gory. It's really boring. You do have some gore here and there, but the film for the most part just really seems to drag in some bits. If you're either a Lance Henriksen fan or Danielle Harris, I would say check it out just for them. That's pretty much the only reason I watched it. But yeah, definitely a boring film. I wouldn't say that this is something worth picking up. Once again, if it's something that you run across at Goodwill for like $1 or something, then maybe it's not too bad to check it out that way. But for the most part, I wouldn't even call it a time killer film, just because you'd pretty much just fall asleep watching this. The whole premise was good, it had potential, but it just falls flat. So for me, the film just really didn't work. You may enjoy it, you may feel differently about it, but for me, this just wasn't a film that I could say was a fun watch or a good film. Not necessarily something I could recommend to someone, unless I disliked them. But yeah, if you don't go into it with high expectations, you may enjoy it, or like I said, if you're just a fan of either of the two actors, then you might find something in it that you do like. But for the most part, just a very boring film. And quite honestly, there was another film released in 2010 called Cyrus. You're probably better off watching that one than this film. But yeah, unfortunately, that's all I have for you guys today, and I will talk to you later.